Hey guys, wanted to give my final thoughts on Doom: The Dark Ages. I just wrapped it up. It's about 11:40 at night. I really need to go to bed because I got a really busy day at work tomorrow. But this game gets your blood flowing, your adrenaline going, and I wanted to talk about it and put a pin in this game. I actually completed what I like to call the natural platinum, which is completing all the trophies such that when you get the final trophy in the game, that hits the platinum. It was a really, really cool way to send off an amazing, amazing, amazing experience. If you have not seen my initial impressions on Doom Eternal or on Doom the Dark Ages, I got all those videos in my playlist. Go check those out. While you're down there, consider subscribing to the channel. All right. Doom: The Dark Ages, the third installment of this new Doom trilogy. I think that Bethesda and id learned a lot of lessons from what worked and what didn't work in the original Doom reboot and then the Doom Eternal game. And I think they struck a really, really good balance with Doom: The Dark Ages. I would say on terms of difficulty, it was probably the easiest of the three. And I say that largely because of my experience in playing a lot of the Elden Ring games and the Soulsborne games, where you're basically doing those perfect parries and dodges to make sure you aren't getting hit. And this game does not only reward you for playing that way, but it incentivizes you in such a way that the later bosses, you really do need to learn how to do that parry system. So spend time getting that timing down and you will become an absolute badass. Now, it's cool because you never really felt like you had to retreat. And the Doom Slayer, who is, the silent protagonist who's always marching forward in this game, feels the most powerful to me. Very, very aggressive play style. I think the gore and the violence has turned up to like 50 in this game, particularly with some of the executions and in the way that you can just absolutely liquefy enemies and large amounts of enemies at a time as well, particularly with some of the more powerful weapons that you unlock later on in the game. It's cool to be able to charge at an enemy and never stop going forward, using your shield to block certain attacks, to parry certain attacks, and then to get up close and use one of the melee weapons, whether it be the fists, the flail, or the dread mace, in absolute, just horrifying fashion, absolutely liquidating everything around you, and then turning, shield charging into the next enemy, rinse and repeat. I never pressed back in this game. I was always pushing forward, and I love that. Even in the final boss, standing toe-to-toe to him with a super shotgun, basically trading shield blows for just absolute ridiculous damage point blank with the super shotgun, was tons and tons of fun. So I loved everything about just the gameplay of how this worked. And I think some people may not like that. I think they may be used more to like dodging bullets, kind of like how you did in Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal. But I actually found this play style to be more aggressive. I felt like I was pushing through the enemy line instead of kind of tap dancing through it. I didn't feel like that fighter jet, that kind of weaker version of the Doom Slayer, like in Doom Eternal. I felt this was the most aggressive, violent, meanest looking Doom Slayer we had. In terms of the story, I mean, it's kind of a throwaway, right? I mean, you're out there to kill stuff and you do it in surprisingly aggressive fashion. And it was okay. It was serviceable. There was a couple of moments in there that I was actually really surprised about. I'm not going to give anything away. Not that there's massive story spoilers that could come, but I was kind of surprised with a couple choices they made in the levels, especially later on in the game. Yeah, it was interesting. You have to play it for yourself to see what I mean. There might be a thing or two that you kind of scratch your head and you're like, did that really need to happen? Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But I think that at the end of the game, justice was served. I think the final area was called Punish the Wicked, or accuse something, punish the accused or something like that. But by the end, when you were facing off against the last kind of gauntlet of final bosses and final enemies, I think that the motivation for you to destroy them was definitely very warranted. I'll just leave it at that. In terms of the weapon switching system and the dual weapon system, where you could press square to toggle between the two weapons. I thought that worked very, very well as well. I really didn't stray away from a couple weapons, but that's just my particular play style. You may find that you like switching in and out. I found a couple weapons to be very serviceable. I did flex all the weapons, obviously, en route to the platinum, getting all of the weapon skins and weapon masteries. So killing enemies, not just with a particular weapon, but in a particular way. Each weapon definitely had a use, whether you wanted to kind of mitigate enemy damage by kind of stunning them or freezing them, or by trying to recharge your melee faster, or by increasing your movement speed, or increasing your overall attack. There were a lot of different combinations and ways to bundle enemies and then destroy them rapidly outside of just the traditional rocket launcher splash damage. And I did appreciate that. I felt like it was really like a slay your way. There's really no bad way to do things. Now, there are some enemies that were more susceptible to certain attacks. However, I never felt like I had to use a particular weapon. It may just take a little longer with a weapon that I wasn't, that I personally wanted to use. Like, I used the shotgun pretty much exclusively for the first 3 or 4 levels. I maxed that out as fast as I could. Super shotgun, of course, is always a go-to standard. But there were some weapons like the accelerator, which I didn't particularly like too much. I felt it was too weak and it stunned enemies, and I didn't really need that. But there are probably other people who say that's the best weapon in the game. So again, your mileage may vary, but the fact that they give you a massive amount of arsenal to play through was really, really well. That's, of course, complemented with the shield and that perfect parry system, which triggered particular attacks. Whether it was a lightning bolt that stunned all the enemies or a shockwave which damaged all the enemies in front of you. I particularly like the Iron Man turret, which popped up kind of like the Flame Belcher in Doom Eternal. This time it has been replaced with a little mini machine gun, and that really did seem to do a significant amount of damage, especially as you start shooting at one enemy while your machine gun's going off, mowing enemies around you. You really did feel like a weapon of war. But I love that you had that risk reward of throwing a shield, which meant you couldn't block, although you could press the block and it instantly snapped back to you. But I like the risk reward of throwing a shield in one direction while charging in another and kind of doing damage in 2 places at once, trying to bundle in enemies together for big finishers. And that was really a lot of fun. A lot of the challenges in the maps did require you to do particular things, kill enemies in a particular way or kill enemies very rapidly. And I found grouping them together was obviously the best way to do that and the most fun, most rewarding. It's awesome when the music starts ramping up, and the music is so good in this game. I know that they've parted ways with our friend Mick Gordon, which is frustrating, but I think the spirit of the music is still there. Maybe not as dynamic as we saw in the first Doom game. I think that Doom 2016 soundtrack is still like the gold standard in terms of building it up. And by the way, if you haven't got a chance to watch him do about an hour and a half so YouTube video explaining kind of his philosophy behind that, I think it was like a CES presentation where he actually creates the sound and explains the layers of sound. It's incredible. The guy is an absolute legend, and he has done so much work for video games and video game soundtracks. I think him and Marty O'Donnell are 2 of the most talented composers for video games ever. So you kind of do miss a little of that in this game because he's not there. I think the music felt kind of samey, where you had that just kind of over blaring guitar, heavy metal feel. But when the music does ramp up and it hits and you're about ready to just, it's going to hit the fan, it is a really cool feeling. And then as you finish off the last enemy and the music kind of fades down, it's kind of like almost a relief, like, oh, okay, like I can rest again. Then you go around and collect all your ammo and items and then move on to the next area. Level design was really good. There were a lot of open world areas where you're allowed to tackle objectives in particular orders or completely avoid stuff altogether. You may be able to golden path a particular area and miss all the side stuff. Again, having the platinum, I went through everything, got every collectible, every piece of gold, every secret item, everything. You don't have to, and some of them were a little tricky, which I appreciated. I would say using the word puzzle is probably embellishing a little bit. Most of the secrets were pretty straightforward to find, and since they do pop up on the map, you're in the right area. But I did appreciate that there was a lot to do if you wanted to. There was some fun platforming and some little levels and or levers and kind of secret passageways and stuff that did, I feel like, reward me. By the end, I did actually have extra gold that I didn't spend, which was kind of interesting. And I did have a couple rubies, which are one of the premium currencies that I didn't spend either. So there's definitely, you don't have to be a completionist in order to completely unlock the arsenal, but you got to be pretty close. You got to be pretty close. So I think that worked well. After you finish each level, you get the debrief to see how many things you found or didn't find, the dossier, the codex, the weapon skins, all that kind of stuff. So it was a constant, checklist if you wanted it to be there. But if not, you just want to enjoy the game and say, I only found 30% of the level, so what? Have fun. The runtime for each level, if you wanted to get everything, about an hour to hour and 15 minutes. That said, this game took me about 20 hours to beat. I think if I golden pathed it, I could have probably done it in like 13 or 14. But, an under 25-hour platinum isn't bad. There's only 27 trophies to get. None of them are particularly difficult. But I felt like it was just a game that I wanted to keep playing. And now that I'm done with it, obviously moving on probably to Death Stranding 2 and falling back into the Nintendo Switch library, I know I'm going to miss it. I hope there's DLC or some additional content. I think they did a right thing this time, dropping the multiplayer. That kind of sucked. My thoughts on Doom Eternal. I wasn't a fan of that game at all. But I think they did the right thing, adding in a lot of levels, or 22 levels, significant boss fights, a good variety of flying levels and mechanized combat levels and ground levels to kind of mix all that up. I felt like the pacing was good. I think they did a good job of all of that. So all in all, man, what an amazing ride. I loved it. I can't wait to see what happens next. I hope they continue kind of this timeline with this Doom. Where we go next and what version of the Slayer we get next, we'll have to wait and see. But I think that this was definitely the most aggressive of the games in terms of in your face, never stopping, pushing forward, pushing faster, pushing harder. And I think also because of the systems that were in place with the shield and how you recovered health and everything, it was a little more forgiving if you kind of screwed up. I don't feel like you got as punished as much, and I think people maybe wouldn't be as frustrated by that. I think they definitely took lessons learned of Doom Eternal's difficulty and kind of lowered that a little bit for this game, and I'm appreciative of that as well. And I think it was the right balance. I played it on the 3rd or 4th difficulty, and it was challenging. There was times that basically regular enemies would basically 3-shot me. So I had to be aggressive and use my shield, but that kind of made it fun. But there is a difficulty toggle, so you can pick and choose what you want to see and not see if you want the game to help you with blocking or put more indications or whatever you can. It's very friendly in that regard. If you just want to pick up the game and you're not that great, you just want to blow through the game and just destroy everything, well, there's a difficulty for you and you're going to have a blast doing it. So great game. Loved it. I'm excited to see what happens next, but I wanted to get all my thoughts out before I move on. My adrenaline is still pumping and going. It's 11:51. I need to go to bed, and I'm just sitting here thinking about those last few minutes and some of the awesome cinematics that I was treated to for beating the game. But that'll wrap up my thoughts on Doom: The Dark Ages. I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. Let me know what you thought about the game. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side. Bye-bye.